During the bustling final days of the year, Snoop Dogg found himself swept into a whirlwind of non-stop work. Tours, recording sessions, and countless meetings packed his schedule from dawn to dusk. Yet, amidst all the chaos, a special performance was arranged at the last minute. Not for contracts or commercial reasons, but due to an overwhelming request from fans in a city he hadn't visited in years. This demand compelled him to muster all his energy to ensure he'd arrive on time, no matter the obstacles. Snoop, known for his meticulous preparation, found himself with little time to weigh his options. Commercial flights were fully booked, and the tight schedule left him no choice but to charter a private jet, a costly but necessary decision. With his signature laid-back demeanor, he arrived at the private airport dressed simply. White sneakers paired with a dark tracksuit and a compact suitcase. His sunglasses masked the fatigue in his eyes, but beneath them, he wore a relaxed smile, as if everything was under control. As he entered the check-in area, the white neon lights of the airport reflected off the glossy stone floors, creating a space that was both pristine and impersonal. A group of airport staff quickly recognized him, whispering among themselves. A few tried to approach, but he merely nodded politely, keeping his focus intact. That was when a child's voice broke the quiet atmosphere. "Uncle Snoop, is that really you?" Snoop turned to see a boy of about 10 standing a few steps away. The boy wore a faded t-shirt, its front emblazoned with the cover art of one of Snoop's iconic albums. Clutching a marker tightly in his hand, the boy's bright eyes gleamed as he stepped closer. I didn't think I'd ever see you here. My dad and I bought tickets to your show tonight. I'm your biggest fan," the boy said, his face alight with joy. Snoop crouched down, smiling warmly as he accepted the marker. In that moment, he wasn't a global superstar. He was simply someone who brought happiness to those who believed in and supported him. "Thanks, little man," he said, his face softening with genuine kindness. "I promise I'll be there. But you have to promise me something, too. You've got to sing along with me tonight, all right?" The boy nodded, so enthusiastically that it seemed his head might fall off. Snoop signed his name in bold letters across the faded t-shirt and added a small symbol as a personal touch. The boy beamed, racing back to his father, who stood a short distance away, waving his thanks. That small but meaningful moment tugged at Snoop's heart. Not in sadness, but as a reminder. Every action, every word he spoke carried a weight of influence far beyond what he sometimes realized. To people like that boy, he wasn't just an artist. He was an inspiration, a dream made real. Thinking of this, Snoop resolved to give his all and not let down those who placed their faith in him. Moving through the waiting area, he settled into a chair and pulled out his phone to review his schedule. The performance was set for 8 p.m., and everything was arranged. The private jet would get him there in a few hours, giving him enough time to rest and prepare. Sliding his sunglasses down slightly, Snoop gazed out through the large airport windows. The jet was ready, its metallic body gleaming under the soft golden light of the tarmac lamps. A smooth flight was all he needed now. Though used to handling pressure, he couldn't shake an odd feeling lingering at the edge of his thoughts, like something was off, waiting ahead. As he pondered, his eyes inadvertently landed on a man in a pilot's uniform standing not far away. The man was tall, with neatly combed graying hair and a stern expression. He stared intently at Snoop, his scrutinizing gaze unflinching. The look made Snoop frown slightly, but he quickly dismissed it. He was used to being observed. It was nothing new. With a faint sigh, he stood, ready to board the plane he believed would carry him to a peaceful journey. What Snoop didn't know was that his encounter with this man would alter the course of his trip and the performance he had poured his heart and soul into preparing. Snoop Dogg approached the security checkpoint, holding his confirmed e-ticket in hand. This should have been a routine process before boarding the private jet that had been prepared for him. He maintained his trademark calm demeanor. Everything had been arranged in advance. A packed schedule didn't faze him. This was the life he was accustomed to, racing against time and handling everything smoothly. But this time, from the moment he stepped through the gate, he sensed something was off. A security officer, after glancing over his documents and looking at Snoop, paused longer than usual. The officer said nothing but whispered into a radio, his eyes filled with hesitation. Snoop raised an eyebrow but remained silent. This wasn't the first time he'd seen people react like this. Seeing a famous black man in an elite setting often elicited such responses. Within a minute, a tall man in a pilot's uniform appeared. His face was stern, his salt and pepper hair neatly slicked back, and his eyes radiated an icy demeanor. This was the captain of the flight, a man Snoop had never met before. The captain walked straight up to him, arms crossed over his chest, and stared at him without a greeting. "Is there a problem?" Snoop asked, his voice calm, though his eyes began scanning the man for answers. The captain took a deep breath, as if preparing to say something momentous, then spoke slowly. "You won't be boarding this flight. I've decided to deny you service." The words hit like a thunderclap in the air, freezing Snoop in place for a few seconds. Around him, people at the checkpoint or waiting in the lounge started turning their heads. Snoop furrowed his brow, his voice steady as he replied, "Why? Everything about my trip is legal. I booked this flight in advance. What's the issue?" The captain tilted his head, a smirk curling at the corner of his mouth. "You think I'm going to let you board a flight with other passengers looking like that? You're gaunt, pale, and look like you might be sick. Who's to say you don't have some contagious disease like tuberculosis?" The statement landed like a slap to Snoop's face. It wasn't just an insult, it was a baseless, prejudiced accusation. For a few moments, an oppressive silence blanketed the checkpoint area. Some passengers whispered, while others began pulling out their phones to record the scene. Snoop let out a dry, bitter chuckle before responding in his deep, measured voice. "Is that how you handle things? Accusing me based on my appearance? I'm perfectly healthy and can prove it. If necessary, call a medical team here to examine me on the spot." But the captain merely shrugged, his tone turning colder. "There's no need for an examination. I'm the one responsible for this flight, and I'm not allowing you on board. Simple as that." At that moment, a young female flight attendant approached. She seemed uneasy, but clearly tried to maintain a professional demeanor. In a soft voice, she said, "Captain, he's completed all the required checks and provided all the necessary documents. If you feel additional checks are needed, perhaps we could resolve this by—" "Shut it," the captain snapped, spinning around to glare at her with icy eyes. "I don't need advice from you. I'm protecting the safety of everyone on this flight. If you disagree, you can leave as well." The harsh words made the flight attendant freeze, her expression a mix of disappointment and fear. She took a step back, saying nothing more, while Snoop remained still, his eyes locked on the captain. "Listen," Snoop spoke, his voice calm but steely. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to board the flight I paid for legally. If additional checks are needed, I'm willing to comply. But you can't deny me entry just because I look different to you." The captain sneered. "Different? Yes, you don't look like the other passengers on this flight, and I won't take any risks, not even 1% for someone like you." The silence grew heavier than ever. Around them, a few passengers looked uncomfortable. A woman whispered, "That's Snoop Dogg. He hasn't done anything wrong." While an older man murmured to his companion, "The captain's right. Who knows if he really is sick?" Suddenly, a young man, probably in his 20s, stood up and shouted, "He hasn't done anything wrong. This is discrimination. We've waited too long to see something like this happen." But the scattered protests didn't change the situation. The captain turned to the security team and ordered, "Escort him out of this area immediately. I don't want his presence delaying the flight." Two security officers approached, asking Snoop to leave the area. One of them looked visibly uncomfortable, as if he wasn't at ease with the situation. But Snoop didn't say anything more. He stood there silently, his eyes scanning the crowd, faces staring back at him with a mix of emotions: sympathy, awkwardness, and the chilling silence of complacency. He exhaled deeply and then spoke with quiet determination. "You might think you're doing the right thing, but the truth has a way of coming out. I won't let this slide." Before leaving, he turned to the young flight attendant who was still standing near the gate, her body tense. He gave her a small nod, a silent gesture of thanks for the support she had tried to offer. Snoop walked through the doors, leaving the area behind, but he knew this was far from over. The captain's words weren't just a personal insult. They were a stark reminder of the injustice he, and so many like him, had faced throughout their lives. Inside him, a quiet storm began to rise, and he knew he wouldn't stay silent. Snoop Dogg stepped out of the security checkpoint, each step feeling heavier than the last. The pilot's baseless accusation still echoed in his mind. "You don't look like the others on this flight." It wasn't just a personal insult. It was a judgment encapsulated in every prejudice he'd faced throughout his life, from being a young black boy in a struggling neighborhood to becoming a global music icon. The people around him continued to watch. Some passengers looked awkward, avoiding his gaze, while others offered silent, sympathetic looks. He understood them. Not everyone had the courage to stand up against injustice, especially in moments like these. As Snoop walked away, a young man in the waiting area, who had witnessed the entire scene, discreetly took out his phone and recorded the exchange between him and the pilot. This young man, Marcus, wasn't a celebrity, but he knew what he had just witnessed was not only wrong, but also emblematic of a larger societal issue. Once Snoop left, Marcus uploaded the video to his social media account with the caption, "I can't believe what I just saw. A global icon like Snoop Dogg humiliated at the airport just because the pilot said he didn't look like the other passengers. This is blatant racism. We can't stay silent about this." The video spread like wildfire. Within 30 minutes, it had garnered thousands of views and comments, ranging from fans to social activists. Hashtags like "Justice for Snoop," "Stop Racial Bias," and "End Discrimination" began trending across social media platforms, attracting attention from celebrities and influencers. A middle-aged woman, who had been standing near the security checkpoint, also posted on her personal page, "As a passenger on this flight, I can't stay silent. I saw the pilot's baseless refusal to let Snoop Dogg board. This was an act of discrimination no one should have to endure, no matter who they are." Snoop moved to a quiet corner near the pickup area, trying to calm himself. His hand clenched the handle of his suitcase tightly, his gaze fixed on the distance. A mix of frustration and helplessness swirled within him, but he knew that lashing out wouldn't solve anything. He needed to focus on finding a way to make it to his performance. He pulled out his phone and called his assistant, his voice deep and urgent. "I've been kicked off the flight. They refused to let me board for no valid reason. Find me another option, any means of transport as long as I can get to the show on time." On the other end, his assistant sounded equally flustered. "I'll start looking immediately." But with such short notice, most alternative flights might already be fully booked. "I'll check other services, but you may need a backup plan." Snoop hung up, the weight of the situation pressing down on him even harder. In his mind, he recalled the image of the boy at the airport, the boy with the bright eyes and a t-shirt featuring one of his album covers. "You gotta make it there!" The boy's words echoed like a reminder. Snoop knew he couldn't let down the thousands of fans who had placed their trust and expectations in him. As Snoop stood there, a middle-aged airport staff member approached him. The man had a kind demeanor and an apologetic look in his eyes. "Sir, I saw what happened. I couldn't do much because of my position, but I want to help you." The man handed Snoop a small piece of paper with a list of contact numbers for private jet and premium transport services in the area. "Try calling them. I can't guarantee anything, but they might be able to help." Snoop looked at the man, feeling a glimmer of hope. He shook the man's hand and said, "Thank you. You don't know how much this means." But the hope was short-lived. Every call he made received the same response. "We're sorry, but all our services are fully booked." With no other options left, Snoop and his assistant decided to rent a car and make the journey by road, the only way he might make it to the performance on time. Rain began to pour heavily as Snoop climbed into the rental car. The highway stretched ahead like an endless ribbon, rain pelting against the windshield in a rhythmic reminder of the race against time. Suddenly, the car jolted violently before coming to a stop on the side of the road. The driver stepped out to check and discovered a mechanical issue that made it impossible to continue the journey. Snoop sighed deeply, the exhaustion and pressure weighing on him more than ever. As they waited for roadside assistance, he sat silently in the car, staring out the window where raindrops slid down the glass. He thought about the countless times he'd faced adversity, from growing up in a poor neighborhood, enduring prejudice and judgment, to becoming a star yet constantly being scrutinized for his appearance and skin color. "I've overcome all that," he told himself. "This time will be no different." While Snoop sat lost in thought, a large truck pulled up beside the car. A middle-aged black man stepped out, his face lighting up with a friendly smile. "You're Snoop Dogg, aren't you?" the man asked, a mix of surprise and excitement on his face. Snoop nodded, feeling a flicker of relief. The man extended his hand. "I'm Jamal. Been listening to your music for years. What are you doing out here in the rain?" Snoop briefly explained the situation, and without hesitation, Jamal said, "Hop in my truck. I'll get you there. No way I'm letting someone like you get stuck out here. We'll make it on time. Trust me." On the road, Jamal shared his own story. He was a long-haul truck driver who had faced his share of struggles and discrimination. "I never let 'em win. You hear me? You have to make it to that show, not just for you, but for all the people watching you." Jamal's words felt like a tonic, reviving Snoop's spirits. He smiled, the fatigue easing slightly. "Thank you, Jamal. I won't forget this." Meanwhile, the video from the airport continued to go viral, sparking a massive wave of support online. The growing outcry from the community became an unstoppable force, but Snoop knew that the online uproar would only matter if he fulfilled his promise, making it to the performance his fans had been waiting for. Snoop Dogg has never been one to give up easily. When all alternative flights were fully booked and chartering a private jet on short notice was impossible, he chose the only remaining option: renting a car to drive himself to the concert venue. The journey was expected to take over 6 hours, and with his tight schedule, it posed a major challenge. But Snoop understood that it wasn't just about the contract or his reputation. It was about a promise to his fans, people who had taken time and poured their emotions into waiting for him. The car rolled onto the empty highway. Outside, the evening sun gradually gave way to darkness. Inside, Snoop reclined in his seat, gazing out the window. He said nothing, his eyes following the rows of trees passing by as the thick silence engulfed the space. His heart felt heavy, not only from the unfair treatment he had just experienced, but also from the weight of time pressing against him. The driver, a middle-aged man with a calm demeanor, attempted to break the tense atmosphere with a reassuring comment. "We'll make it on time, sir. Don't worry." Snoop didn't reply immediately, offering only a slight nod. He checked his watch. Less than 6 hours remained before the concert. Everything hinged on whether this car could get him there on time. After nearly 2 hours of driving, the weather began to shift unexpectedly. Dark clouds gathered, obscuring the moon and stars. The first raindrops pattered against the windshield, quickly escalating into a heavy downpour. Wind howled through the roadside trees, bending their branches, while sudden bursts of thunder ripped through the night. The driver had to slow down, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. The road ahead disappeared into a blur of rain, illuminated only by the headlights casting shimmering streaks across the water. Snoop peered outside, unable to hide his concern. The rain wasn't just delaying their journey, it was making it perilous. Suddenly, a loud thud rang out. The car jolted violently before coming to a halt by the roadside. The driver shook his head and sighed. "Flat tire. I'll need some time to change it." Snoop stepped out of the car. He pulled his jacket over his head to shield himself from the rain, but water still seeped through the fabric, chilling him to the bone. He looked around. They were in the middle of an open field, with no lights or signs of civilization in sight. The wind whistled across the empty expanse, blending with the relentless drumming of rain, a sound both familiar and unsettling. This was a situation he hadn't prepared for. While waiting for the driver to change the tire, Snoop leaned against the car, closing his eyes. Old memories suddenly flooded back, pulling him into the challenging days of his childhood. He remembered growing up in Long Beach, California, a black boy in a poor neighborhood fraught with hardships. From an early age, he had to learn to confront prejudice. Once, when he was just 12 years old, a neighbor accused him of stealing something he hadn't even touched. The man didn't need evidence. Snoop's skin color was enough to convict him in the man's eyes. Those painful memories never faded, but instead of letting them defeat him, Snoop turned them into fuel for his ambition. He recalled the first time he stood on stage before a crowd, microphone in hand, letting music dissolve all barriers and prejudice. It was in that moment he realized music wasn't just a job. It was his way of fighting back, his way of reshaping how people saw him. As the rain continued to pour and the car remained out of commission, a sudden beam of light appeared in the distance. A large truck approached and pulled over. From the cabin, A middle-aged man with a weathered baseball cap stepped out, his graying hair and warm smile visible even in the dim light. "You're Snoop Dogg, aren't you?" he asked, his eyes glinting with a mix of surprise and excitement. Snoop nodded, slightly taken aback by the recognition. The man walked closer and extended his hand. "Name's Jamal. Been listening to your music for years. What are you doing out here in the middle of this storm?" Snoop briefly explained the situation, from being turned away at the airport to this challenging drive to make it to the concert on time. Jamal listened intently, his brows furrowing as he heard about the unfair treatment Snoop had faced at the airport. He nodded firmly and said decisively, "Hop in my truck. I'll get you there. We're not letting anyone or anything stop you." Inside the truck, Jamal and Snoop talked like old friends. Jamal shared stories about his years as a cross-country truck driver and, like Snoop, the discrimination he had faced. "As a black man, you already know," Jamal said, his voice heavy with experience. "They judge us the moment they see us. But I learned to block it out. I kept moving forward, not for them, but for me, to prove I belong here no matter what they think." He paused, looking at Snoop. "And so do you. You're not just an artist, you're a symbol, a dream for so many people. Don't let anyone stop you. You got to make that concert, not just for yourself, but for everyone who's watching you." Jamal's words felt like a shot of adrenaline, reigniting Snoop's determination. He smiled, his eyes bright with renewed resolve. "Thank you, Jamal. I won't forget this." As the truck sped forward, the rain began to subside. In the distance, the lights of the city hosting the concert started to come into view, like a beacon guiding them. Snoop felt a sense of relief wash over him. The journey hadn't been easy, but he knew he was closer to his destination. Now, he carried not only the responsibility of an artist, but also a deep gratitude for people like Jamal, those who lent a helping hand, and the fans waiting for him ahead. With Jamal by his side, Snoop pressed on, determined to keep his promise to those who believed in him. As Snoop Dogg continued his arduous journey, an unexpected development was unfolding on social media. A video capturing the airport incident, where the pilot blocked Snoop with blatantly prejudiced remarks, had been secretly recorded and uploaded by Marcus, a young passenger. In less than an hour, the video went viral, garnering attention from millions around the globe. The 1-minute video began with the pilot standing in front of Snoop with a disdainful expression, saying, "You're not like the other passengers. I can't risk letting you on this flight." It was followed by Snoop's calm yet powerful response. "Are you accusing me just because of how I look? I'm ready to cooperate, but this is wrong." The video ended with the scene of the pilot ordering airport security to escort Snoop out of the screening area. The combination of this scene and Snoop's silent but helpless gaze immediately sparked a wave of outrage on social media. Marcus, who uploaded the video, added a caption, "I can't believe this happened right before my eyes. Snoop Dogg, a global music icon, being treated this way because of prejudice and discrimination. We can't stay silent." Within hours, hashtags like Justice for Snoop and Y'all End Racial Bias soared to the top of global trends. The video attracted millions of views, shares, and comments from users worldwide. Comments such as, "No one, not even Snoop Dogg, deserves to be treated like this," and "This is blatant discrimination, and we need to speak out," flooded the post. The outrage extended beyond Snoop's fan base to social activists, human rights organizations, and celebrities. A renowned lawyer tweeted, "This isn't just about Snoop Dogg. This is an issue that the aviation industry and society as a whole must confront. No one should have to endure such injustice. Many prominent figures in the entertainment industry quickly voiced their support for Snoop. A top rapper shared, "I've felt the sting of being watched just because I'm black. But they've crossed the line. We stand with you, Snoop," a famous actress posted. This isn't just Snoop Dogg's story. It's the story of everyone who's ever been judged by their appearance or background. We must make a change. Not only celebrities, but also social organizations and human rights activists joined the wave of reaction. A major human rights group posted a statement. "What happened to Snoop Dogg is just the tip of the iceberg. We demand accountability from the airline and systemic changes in how passengers are treated." Snoop's ordeal quickly transcended personal injustice, becoming a symbol of a larger societal issue. Thousands of people began sharing their own stories, from being denied service due to their skin color to unfair treatment during flights. A middle-aged woman wrote, "I'm not Snoop Dogg, but I've been refused boarding because they thought I didn't belong. This is a systemic problem we need to tackle at its roots." A young boy, a fan of Snoop, recorded a heartfelt video. Wearing a t-shirt with Snoop's album cover, he said, "Uncle Snoop, I believe you'll make it to the show. My dad and I are waiting for you. I believe in you." The boy's video was widely shared, becoming a symbol of hope and solidarity from the community for Snoop. The mounting public pressure forced the airline to face a growing crisis. Thousands of social media users tagged the airline, demanding an explanation. Some customers declared they would boycott the airline if the issue wasn't transparently resolved. Initially silent, the airline eventually released a statement. "We are conducting an internal investigation into the incident involving passenger Snoop Dogg. We are committed to fair treatment and will provide official updates soon." However, this announcement did little to quell the criticism, further fueling public anger. As Jamal's truck brought Snoop closer to the concert venue, his phone buzzed incessantly. He opened it to find hundreds of messages and notifications from his assistant, friends, and fans. A call from his assistant came through, his voice a mix of concern and excitement. "Snoop, have you seen it? Social media is blowing up. The airport video has over 5 million views already. Everyone's standing with you." Snoop opened his social media account. Messages of encouragement, supportive posts, and hashtags like "More Justice for Snoop" filled the screen. He sat quietly in the car for a few moments, letting the emotions, surprise, gratitude, and resolve wash over him. He posted a short but powerful message. "I see your support. Thank you all for standing up for justice. I'm on my way to the show. Nothing can stop us when we stand together." Snoop's story didn't just garner personal support, it ignited a broader movement. Journalists began writing analytical pieces about bias in the aviation industry. Human rights organizations called for independent investigations. Hundreds of people shared their own experiences, creating a mosaic of injustice. A human rights activist declared, "Snoop Dogg's story is a wake-up call. This isn't just about one individual. It's about how systemic prejudice and discrimination operate. We can't accept this any longer." The social media wave turned Snoop's story into a symbol. Not just a fight for personal justice, but a call for systemic change. And moving forward, Snoop knew he wasn't alone. The community had risen with him, demanding fairness and refusing to remain silent in the face of injustice. The wave of public outrage showed no signs of subsiding. Instead, it grew stronger by the day. Articles, videos, and a slew of hashtags like Justice for Snoop and End Racial Bias not only increased pressure on the airline but also drew significant media attention. In just a few short days, Snoop Dogg's story had transcended the boundaries of a personal incident, becoming a symbol of the fight against injustice and discrimination in the airline industry and society at large. Under mounting pressure from social media and news outlets, the airline was forced to issue its first statement. "We are conducting a thorough investigation into the incident involving passenger Snoop Dogg. We are committed to handling this matter fairly and will announce the results as soon as possible." However, this vague announcement did little to quell public anger and instead fueled further suspicion. Thousands of people on social media asked questions like, "What's there to investigate? The video is crystal clear." Or, "They're just stalling, hoping this blows over." The pressure mounted, compelling the airline to act more quickly and transparently to retain customer trust. The airline assembled an internal investigative team to gather evidence from multiple sources. The most critical piece was the video recorded by Marcus, a young passenger, which had gone viral online. In the footage, the captain's disrespectful attitude and prejudiced comments were unmistakable. "You're not like the other passengers. I can't take the risk of letting you on this flight." Next, eyewitnesses from the airport were interviewed. A young flight attendant who had tried to stand up for Snoop was among the first to testify. In her statement, she detailed how the captain dismissed every explanation and interrupted her when she suggested conducting a health check for Snoop. "I didn't dare speak up too much at the time because I was afraid of losing my job, but I knew what he did was wrong." An airport security officer also confirmed that Snoop Dogg had fully cooperated during the security check and showed no signs of the health issues the captain had cited. He shared, "The way the captain acted didn't follow any standard procedure. He made his own judgment based on personal bias." These testimonies, combined with Marcus's video, not only exposed the captain's misconduct but also highlighted gaps in the airline's management and employee oversight processes. While the investigation progressed, external pressure continued to mount. Human rights organizations and social justice advocates quickly joined the conversation. One prominent organization issued a statement. "This incident is not an isolated case. It's a systemic problem where power is misused and bias persists at every level." Several celebrities also voiced their demands for concrete action. A high-profile rapper posted on social media, "If this airline doesn't take clear action, they'll lose all our trust. This isn't just about Snoop Dogg. It's about how they treat all passengers." Stories from other passengers began surfacing on social media, further intensifying the situation. One man shared, "I was once denied boarding because they suspected my passport was fake, just because I didn't speak fluent English." These accounts added more pressure on the airline to provide a satisfactory explanation and resolution. After several days of investigation, the final report was released. It concluded that the captain had seriously violated the airline's code of conduct, including abusing his authority and exhibiting discriminatory behavior. The evidence was undeniable, from Marcus's video to the testimonies of the flight attendant and the security officer, which all clearly revealed the captain's wrongdoing. The airline swiftly announced the captain's termination. Additionally, he faced legal charges, including discrimination and abuse of authority, causing emotional distress to the passenger. To salvage its reputation, the airline held a formal press conference. the CEO personally issued an apology to Snoop Dogg and the public. "We sincerely apologize to Mr. Snoop Dogg for the unacceptable experience he endured. This incident represents a significant failure on our part to ensure fairness and professionalism for all passengers." The airline didn't stop at an apology. It committed to implementing reforms to prevent similar incidents in the future. These measures included: 1. Launching unconscious bias training programs. All employees, from flight crews to ground staff, would undergo training to recognize and eliminate personal biases in their work. 2. Establishing an independent oversight committee. This committee would monitor and address complaints about misconduct, ensuring transparency and fairness. 3. Public accountability reports. The airline pledged to regularly publish reports on complaints related to discrimination and how they were addressed to rebuild public trust. When the apology was made public, Snoop Dogg posted a response on his social media accounts. "I accept their apology, but words alone are not enough. What matters is action. I hope their commitments are not just empty promises. This isn't just about me. It's about everyone who has ever been treated unfairly. Thank you all for standing with me on this journey." Snoop's post garnered millions of likes and comments. Many praised his composure and positive attitude, viewing him as a symbol of resilience and humanity. Snoop Dogg's story didn't end with reclaiming justice for himself. It sparked a wave of change in the airline industry and society. Calls for other airlines to learn from this incident grew louder, urging them to ensure passengers would never face discrimination or injustice due to biases or their backgrounds. A journalist remarked, "Snoop Dogg turned a personal ordeal into a small revolution, forcing the industry to reflect on itself." This isn't just his victory, it's a step forward for all of us. For Snoop, the journey hadn't been easy, but he knew that what he achieved had contributed to something much bigger, not just for himself, but for the entire community. When Jamal's truck stopped backstage at the venue, Snoop Dogg stepped out into the dimly lit parking lot. A gentle breeze swept through, carrying the distant sound of a crowd still patiently waiting on the other side of the stage. He pulled his hood tighter, feeling his breath mingle with the steady pounding in his chest. Despite being nearly an hour late, the audience hadn't dispersed. Their cheers had only grown louder, more insistent. "You ready?" Jamal, the man who had stood by Snoop through every trial and triumph, gave him a reassuring pat on the shoulder. Snoop turned, flashing a faint yet resolute smile. "Always ready, Jamal. Thanks for believing in me." Jamal nodded. "You're not just an artist. You're a voice for so many people. Let's go. They're waiting." Taking a deep breath, Snoop stepped through the doors leading backstage. Each step seemed to carry the weight of his journey, one filled with struggles, setbacks, and triumphs, but also a deep sense of purpose and pride. The music stopped as Snoop appeared on stage. Bright lights illuminated him, and the crowd erupted into a wave of deafening cheers and applause. Fans held up signs with messages like, "We stand with Snoop," and "Justice for Snoop." He stood still for a moment, his eyes scanning the sea of faces before him. He saw their radiant smiles, eyes glimmering with hope, and tears of emotion streaming down their cheeks. They weren't just there for the music. They were there for his story, a story of resilience, resistance, and redemption. He raised his hand, signaling for silence. As the crowd hushed, his deep, warm voice cut through the air. firm yet filled with emotion. The journey to stand here today hasn't been easy. I've faced things no one should ever have to face, but I didn't give up. Not for me, but for you. I knew you were waiting, and I couldn't let you down. The audience erupted in applause, but Snoop continued, his voice steady and deliberate, as though he wanted every word to resonate deeply with each listener. Tonight, I want to send a message. This world isn't perfect. Injustice can strike anywhere, in our jobs, in society, and sometimes in the most unexpected moments. But we can't stay silent. If we don't speak up, injustice will keep thriving. And I promise you this, we will fight to the end. A roar of applause and cheers surged through the venue. The crowd rose to their feet, waving, shouting, and chanting his name. The booming chants of "Snoop! Snoop! Snoop!" fused with the electric atmosphere, making the stage tremble under the weight of love and support. As the first beats of the music played, Snoop launched into his performance. He delivered his iconic hits, the songs that had defined his career. But tonight, every lyric, every beat carried an added weight, a reaffirmation that he had overcome every obstacle to be here at this moment. Midway through the performance, Snoop paused unexpectedly. The stage lights shifted, illuminating the audience. Smiling, he spoke into the mic. "I want to introduce a special guest." From the crowd, a young boy, about 10 years old, slowly made his way to the stage, his eyes wide with emotion. It was the same boy Snoop had met at the airport, the boy who had told him, "You have to come." The boy wore a t-shirt emblazoned with one of Snoop's album covers, and as he stood beside his idol, the crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Snoop knelt down, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "This is why I can't give up. I promised this kid I'd be here, and tonight, I kept that promise. This isn't just for him, it's for all of you. We can't let anyone or anything stop us from chasing our dreams." That moment became the highlight of the night, a testament to the power of music not just as entertainment, but as a vehicle for change and a force for good. When the concert ended, Snoop wasn't finished. At a small press conference afterward, he announced plans for a charity concert, with all proceeds going to organizations fighting discrimination and supporting victims of social injustice. "This isn't just about me," he told reporters. "It's about everyone who's ever been wronged, everyone who hasn't had the chance to speak up. I want to use my voice and my platform to make a difference. Justice isn't something we wait for. It's something we fight for together." The charity concert, held a week later, featured performances by several major artists. Tickets sold out within hours, and all proceeds were donated to human rights organizations worldwide. The event marked not only Snoop Dogg's triumphant return, but also a powerful declaration. He wasn't just an artist. He was a leader in the fight against social injustice. His songs, his words, and his story touched millions, from those present that night to viewers streaming the event online across the globe. Snoop's journey became a beacon of hope, not just for his fans, but for anyone who had ever faced injustice. As the stage lights dimmed and the final applause echoed, he stepped down, knowing he had achieved more than just success on stage. He had won the hearts of the people. Snoop Dogg walked away, carrying with him the belief that no matter how difficult the journey, people can rise, fight, and create change. And his message reverberated far beyond the night: we must never stay silent in the face of injustice. After everything that had happened, an unexpected event brought the story to a close with a profoundly human touch. A week after the airline released the results of their investigation and issued a public apology, Snoop Dogg received a letter from the captain, the very person who had denied him entry onto the flight with prejudiced remarks. In the letter, the captain fully acknowledged his responsibility, writing with deep regret. He said, "Dear Snoop Dogg, I'm writing this letter with great shame and deep remorse. Over the past few days I have spent a lot of time reflecting on my actions, on how I judged you unfairly and with prejudice. I have no excuse for my behavior, and I sincerely apologize to you." The letter continued, "I was taught that the responsibility of a captain is not only to ensure the safety of a flight, but also to uphold respect and fairness for all passengers. But I failed. You have taught me an important lesson, not only about the injustice I caused, but also about the resilience and kindness you have shown. I hope that, even in a small way, I can make amends, not just to you, but to everyone who has suffered injustice from people like me." Toward the end, the captain wrote, "I do not expect forgiveness, but I hope this letter can be the first step in my journey to make things right. Thank you for showing me the need to change." Snoop Dogg read the letter in silence, feeling each word as a testament to the power of relentless perseverance. After some thought, he decided to share the letter on social media, accompanied by a heartfelt message. "Forgiveness does not change the past, but it can shape the future. We fight not for revenge, but to make the world a better place. I hope he and everyone who has ever caused injustice learns from this story and uses it to build a fairer future." The post quickly went viral, resonating with millions of fans. One commenter wrote, "Snoop's act of forgiveness is a reminder that we can rise above pain to create positive change." Another said, "The captain's letter and Snoop's response show that even the gravest mistakes can become opportunities for growth and improvement." After weeks of emotional and challenging times, Snoop Dogg finally got to enjoy what he had long been waiting for, a vacation in the Maldives. This time, the plane carried him to his destination with a warm welcome from the resort staff. The soft white sand and turquoise waters seemed to embrace him, soothing the weariness he had endured. During his stay, Snoop savored every moment of peace. He took time to reflect, recharge, and bask in the triumph he and the community had achieved together. One morning, as the sun rose over the horizon, Snoop recorded a short video message for the fans who had stood by him throughout the journey. Standing on the beach with the vast ocean behind him, his voice was calm yet powerful. "I want to thank all of you. This victory is not just mine, it's ours. It shows that when we come together, when we stand up for justice, we can change the world. Believe in your strength and never stay silent in the face of injustice. Thank you for being part of this journey." The video quickly went viral, becoming the final symbol of an inspiring story. Fans around the world shared the video with messages of positivity and gratitude toward Snoop. Snoop Dogg's journey was not just a story of overcoming adversity, but also a testament to the power of unity, resilience, and forgiveness. He had stood up not only for himself but also for those without a voice, for a more just world. As Snoop sat quietly on the Maldives beach watching the sunset, he knew this story had left an indelible mark, not only on his life, but also on the hearts of millions who had witnessed it. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, with the gentle waves lapping at the shore, it was a reminder that justice is never a destination. It is a journey that we must all undertake together. If you enjoyed this story and want to join me on future journeys, hit the subscribe button now. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss any meaningful content. Thank you for your support and for being part of our community.